What's up, everyone? This is your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How is everyone doing today? I'm doing well myself, personally. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, we're basically going to be talking about the Trump's immunity. Um, That's my plan for the day. We'll go over, various clips. We'll start off with Biden's remarks on immunity. The immunity ruling that was handed down yesterday. So we'll check out Biden's remarks. We'll check out Trump's remarks, and then we'll go into the various insanity that has ensued on Democrats because they're idiots. We'll even go to my own Twitter feed and engage or show my engagement with some of these morons who somehow think that just because there has been an immunity established that has always been there, by the way, that this means the president can do anything. Means there's no more laws. No, you fucking idiots. That does not, just because Trump has immunity does not mean there's no more laws, that he can't be held responsible for his actions. You just can't go after him without impeaching him. Fuck's sake. Like, it's honestly getting on my nerves how either intentionally dumb they are or just retarded. Actually retarded they are. I'm hoping they the SCOTUS blog on this maybe help narrow it down more. Ah, there it is. Nope. I would think that they already. There it is. Cool. All right, cool. All right, so what we'll do is we will check out Biden's response to this. He held a 5-minute press conference on this matter. And then we'll check out Trump's, who has a 3-minute thing on the matter. And then we'll go to the SCOTUS blog and read from there. That probably will be basically outline it better than I can, and prevent me from having to read a 119-page document. I am not interested in that. If you want to look that, go check out probably, I don't know, Civil Laws channel, maybe even Legal Mindsets. Whoever decides that they want to put themselves through that. I'm not going to. Hold on. All right. So yeah. Before we get into any of that, let's check out. Let's do a little housekeeping. Follow me on X at officialwghost. That is the best way to find out when I go live and what I am up to. You can also watch me live as well if you choose to. You should also follow me on Rumble, rumble.com/withghost. That is the main channel. Rumble is the place to go. Wherever I am, wherever I'll broadcast, it's going to be Rumble, unless Rumble significantly doesn't about face on their values. YouTube is, of course, youtube.com/@withghost. We are trying to build my following there. And then twitch.tv/officialwithghost. I don't think I have much following over there, but that's fine. Try and throw it out as much as possible. Spread the love. Yeah, and then of course I have my gaming channel, rumble.com. Rumble is Gaming with Ghosts. And then YouTube is at Official Gaming with Ghosts. So those are your various options. I'm sorry for my lethargic neighbor. I worked till 1:50 last night, and I didn't get home till like 2:40. So I didn't go to bed till like 3:30ish due to having to clean and eat because I was hungry. Which means after this, I'm going to go home and go back and go to bed. But hopefully, I can sustain myself by drinking some 1775 coffee from Rumble. So make sure you check that out. It is delicious and cool. And I don't even know how to describe it. It's delicious. It's quite good. Quite good. All right, let's get to it. I hate these headphones so much. I just bought them and they suck. They're too big for my ears. Probably buy some like over the ear headphones at some point because these are just stupid. All right, so we're going to check out. Yeah, so this is Biden. Because it's so short, we will not do my my habit of 1.5 speed. We'll listen to it in its full normal speed.
Good evening. The presidency is the most powerful office in the world. It's an office that not only tests your judgment, perhaps even more importantly, it's an office that...
Did Biden get a spray tan? He's looking a few shades darker than he did on the debate stage, and I have been seeing him seeing people roasting him over it and everything, and I thought it was just like some sort of meme, and they have exaggerated it, but he's definitely gotten a tan.
Test your character, because you're not only facing...
And I know he had like a few rallies. I'm sure they were outside for a little bit, but he's white. I don't think he tans that quickly. I tan that quickly, but I don't think Biden tans that quickly.
Moments when you need the courage to exercise the full power of the presidency. You also face moments where you need the wisdom to respect the limits of the power of the office of the presidency. This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America.
It's not actually true. A president is a king. He's got some powers removed from a king, but in general, he is considered a king. He's just a king that's elected every 4 years. Now, he could have stayed on for a lot longer. Prior to FDR? Prior to him being president, you could it was just more of a tradition for to step down after 2 terms. But I mean, in all technicality, in all reality, the president is a king. It's just a more neutered king, and his power, some of his powers being separated from him and made into the legislative and judiciary branch. So I mean, the president is a king. It's just a neutered version.
Each of us is equal before the law. No one.
That's not true at all. Not even close. Prosecutors have absolute immunity. Police have qualified immunity. I mean, there's immunity cases all around. So we're not all actually equal under the law. And again, it's even if, for whatever reason, say we were, like, let's say, we were to take this, it's not true at all. That's not the truth in practice at all. It's a fairy tale we like to believe, but it's not actually true. We're not actually all equal under the law. The more money that you can raise in your defense, the better the outcome you have of winning said case. It's not equality. Okay. If the state really wants to go after you because you have the incorrect political opinion, but they will allow people to burn down cities without so much of an arrest or any prosecution. That's not equality. So we're not equal under the law. It's just some bullshit that we like to spew because it sounds good.
No one is above the law.
No, there's a lot of people above the law.
Not even the President of the United States. Today's Supreme Court decision.
Here's the thing, though. Like, even, like, with Trump being granted immunity, it's not being above the law. It's working within the confines of the law. The law is the one that grants him. Well, the Constitution really doesn't, but the law is what says you have absolute immunity. Prosecutors have absolute immunity when they're doing their job. Why would a president not?
Decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed.
It actually didn't. Here's the thing: what people really don't understand, because they're too dumb. Presidents have always had immunity. Okay, we never had to have an actual ruling because it was understood that you did have an immunity. What happened was there was a handshake, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Bob's your uncle with the outgoing and incoming president. The incoming basically unspokenly agreed not to go after the outgoing unless they were impeached. Okay. Otherwise, they were free to leave in peace. There was no one that was gonna, he wasn't gonna go after them politically or because he's a political opponent. He wasn't gonna do any of this. Okay. That's been the law of the land, really. It was an unspoken law. All right. It was an unspoken law that didn't need to be delved into because it was, it was basically agreed upon without actually having it down in writing. So it's the fact that they're trying to like, oh, it's fundamentally changed. No, Biden fundamentally changed it when he went after his political opponent. Think about this, all right? Trump never went after Hillary when he was elected president. Okay. He could have. That document case, he could have. Okay. Trump didn't go after Obama. Obama didn't go after Bush, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's nowhere in our history prior to Joe Biden that a sitting president would go after the outgoing president for something he did. We even had Gerald Ford pardon Nixon prior to him even being, after he resigned and prior to him being even prosecuted for things for Watergate and whatnot. So we have an examples of you have examples of how presidential immunity actually worked. Again, it was an unspoken agreement. It just was something we just did. Biden changed all that. It didn't start with this immunity case being handed down. It started when Biden decided to go after Trump because he was his political opponent. That's simply the only reason he went after him. All right. And how do we know this is the only reason? Because none of these cases went forth until Trump decided to run again and was starting to run and gain some, that's only when it really started. When he decided to run, say, I'm going to run, all of a sudden you had case after case after case handed down. All right. Once Trump decided he was going to run, that's when the cases went down, because it's been 4 years and all of a sudden all these cases have come forward. Okay. It's the election cycle, and all these cases, okay, have decided to come forward. Okay, he's been prosecuted for a few, or no, he's been prosecuted for one, convicted, and he's still got a bunch of other pending. One's held off indefinitely. That's the classified documents. I think there's another one that's being pushed back. And then there's Jack Smith. So it's that was the fundamental change. It wasn't Trump, it was Biden. Okay. If Biden had left Trump alone, didn't told you DOJ, no, he's out of office. All right. Let him, if he's gonna run and the people want him, that's what they want. Just don't bring charges against him. this ruling would never have to be made. Okay. It was only when a sitting president decided to go after his political rival that this something that was already in the Constitution, although really, left unsaid, but kind of already there, had to be brought forth and put in writing. It's only because of Biden.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do.
There really isn't. If you looked in history, there were no limits on what a president could do. The whole system of government that we rely on is operated on a handshake and a nod. Because the president's the sole commander in chief. He has all the military power. Okay, if he decides he's not going to do whatever the judicial circuit says or legislative branch says, he just doesn't do it. And we've seen that if you look back in history of the times that the one of the elected branches tried to use their own power against the president. It hasn't really worked. Okay, hasn't really worked. Okay. I mean, the whole reason we have 9 justices instead of, can't remember how many it used to be. 7? Was it 7? Was because FDR put more in place. So I think that's correct. Hold on. Let me double check that. Yeah. So the Supreme Court issued a series of rulings that undercutted some of FDR's New Deal legislation, and so he tried to respond with a proposed bill that would have allowed him to name 6 new Supreme Court justices to reach a grand total of 15. He was decried for packing the courts, and the Senate voted down 7-20 his attempts. But we went from when did we get 9? Hold on. Doesn't even say why we have 9. All right, never mind. Not important. Being off in a tangent. I'm too tired to do tangents. Well, but we saw an attempt to curtail the president's power, because when FDR was president, he was so widely popular. He was elected 4 times, and during his stint, Congress imposed a term limit on the president, but that was only until after FDR was done, because he was a widely popular president. If you're a wildly popular president. Your power is not limited ever. It's never been. If you're a widely, like George Washington could have done anything he wanted. He was a widely popular president. He was the hero. Okay. He was the leader of the revolution. It's widely popular. He could have done whatever he wanted. Abraham, or I don't know about that, but that's basically the point. Is if you're a widely popular president, you can do whatever the fuck you want. That's what happened to FDR. That's why they decided. I can't remember if it was. Yeah, the Congress decided to limit the president's power by setting a 2-term limit. Because FDR was so powerful, so popular, he got elected 4 times. But also with that, they didn't, and they ensured that limit was not imposed until FDR was done. So if FDR wanted, he could have ran for a 5th, 6th term, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He could have done that if he so choose, because that it wasn't until after FDR was done that ruling would have gone through. All right.
This is a fundamentally new principle.
It's not a fundamentally new principle, Joe.
And it's a dangerous precedent because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
It's not true. He is constrained by the law. If he, here's what people don't understand. Okay, just because you have immunity doesn't mean that immunity can't be stripped. Okay, and it also doesn't mean that there's no laws. So the president can commit an act. It could be deemed an official act. Okay, but it could be although it's an official act because it in his his power as president or whatever, that could be deemed an official act, and everything could still be a crime, and the Senate or Congress can still impeach him, which would remove him from office. And the natural entailment of that would be that he is stripped his immunity and can be prosecuted. Okay. Now, we don't have an actual answer to this question. It's just a logical conclusion one can make because of 2 reasons. One, that wasn't up for this, that wasn't the question that was put before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court usually doesn't answer questions that it has not been answered or been asked. Okay. Doesn't really happen. But 2, we have yet to have a president that's actually been fully impeached and removed. Okay. That's what it's been. Okay. We haven't had a sitting president be removed. We don't know how that works. But in the the entailment of impeachment being used for high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay. High crimes, you can still impeach a president for high crimes, wouldn't mean that once you successfully impeach the president and remove them from office, their immunity is stripped and you can prosecute them. Now, if that ever happens, and we do that, we'll have to go back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will more than likely rule if you impeach and remove a sitting president, he loses his immunity, you can prosecute him. Okay? It's a very natural entailment from that. It's a very logical one, but people are too goddamn stupid. Just want to do this. I forgot to do this again. Shout out to the Shadow Band Ban for the follow. Shout out to JT Jordan 70 for the follow as well. I appreciate you all. Let's see. Hold on, because I had a new sub on the YouTubes. I don't even know where to fucking find it. Shout out to Sarah Dawson for the sub on YouTube. And shout out to Virginia Liu for the sub on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. I just realized. All right, continuing.
The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone.
No, the limits are the check and balances of the separation of power. So impeachment is the limit. That's why. That's all they ever included. The founding fathers, they only ever included impeachment of how you get rid of a president. It's the only way you could do it to get rid of a president. It wasn't, and then later on, it was until what was it, 25th Amendment that they started, that they made, hey, if the president can't do his job, then the powers transfer to the vice president. It wasn't until the 25th Amendment was created that that actually happened. But the only way, truly, to remove a president is through impeachment. That's the limit.
This decision today has continued the court's attack in recent years on a wide range of long-established legal principles in our nation.
Okay, just because the legal principles have been established doesn't mean they're good legal principles. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg agreed that Roe v. Wade, which I'm sure he's going to talk about, but even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said Roe v. Wade was a bad law. It was bad law. And so the removal of bad law is a good thing. Just because something's been established for long and everything was long established and legal principle doesn't mean it's a good thing. Okay. He's also probably talking about Chevron that's been removed. Chevron was a shit decision that basically gave federal agencies, unelected officials, to be able to interpret the law how they saw fit. Okay, they could turn a tiny puddle into a wetland, make a plastic piece, a machine gun, classified that as a machine gun, as we are seeing in, I can't remember. There's a case that's somewhere where the ATF has done this like little plastic like card thing, metal card thing, and they're saying that that can be turn a gun into a machine gun, and therefore it is classified as a machine gun, and are prosecuting this guy going forward. I can't remember the case for the life of me. I'm sure if you Google that up, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, so again, bad law is bad law. It doesn't matter how long it's been established.
From gutting voting rights and civil rights.
Where have we gutted any voting rights or civil rights? I guess he's talking about Roe v. Wade.
To taking away a woman's right to choose.
Okay, well, he wasn't talking about Roe v. Wade there, but what are the voting rights that have been gutted? What are the civil rights that have been gutted, Joe? Okay, and again, the whole pro-abortion thing, it's never been in the Constitution, wasn't an actual right. Even
to today's decision that undermines the rule of law of this nation.
It does not actually. It works within the law, within the framework of the Constitution.
Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol.
That's not true either, Joe. He didn't send anyone. They went themselves. I had an argument with someone on this too, and so fucking dumb.
To stop the peaceful transfer of power. We all saw it with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day. Attack on the police. The ransacking at the Capitol.
It's not how it started. It's how it ended. And ransacking? Really?
A mob literally hunting down the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, and I guess we're just going to ignore the Summer Love, BLM, the burning down cities. We're going to ignore all that. None of those people got prosecuted, as far as I know. Okay? No one prosecuted anyone burning buildings and throwing firebombs at official buildings as well. Government buildings. Okay?
Gallows erected to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence. I think it's fair to say it's one of the darkest days in the history of America.
Really? That's the darkest day? I can think of a few more than likely, because, nothing really ended up happening. Okay.
Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol is facing potential criminal conviction. What happened? Yeah,
criminal conviction that, is politically motivated and purely political.
Happened that day. And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th.
Well, maybe the committee that was supposed to be investigating shouldn't have deleted all that footage. They deleted a bunch of footage, didn't they?
Before they asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation. So now the American people have to do what the courts should have been willing to do, but will not. The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land. The American
Says who? That was found to be untrue. You can't even get that like at all. That's completely.
people must decide if Trump's embrace of violence to preserve his power is acceptable.
Somehow he embraced violence. Okay. By a bunch of people that supported him, saw the election to be incorrectly done, and wanting to protest against that, and then conspiracy theories or all that stuff going on about it. What happened between the protest that was happening and then the riot that it turned into. Okay. But Donald Trump's responsible for that. Except they can never actually link Donald Trump to that. All right. You ask them how, they say, oh, well, he said fight like hell. Okay. So that's incitement? No, it's not. Okay. There's no way to link Donald Trump to anything in January 6th. Like he even said on Twitter, be peaceful, protest peacefully, go home. This is done. He did all that. January 6th, none of that really has anything to do with the president at this point.
Perhaps most importantly, the American people must decide they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump.
Entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump. Dear Lord, can't even speak correctly. Yeah, it's either you vote for Trump, okay, who has been charged and gone after due to political reasons. You either pick Trump, okay, or you go for Biden, who had such a fucking terrible performance in the debates on Thursday that even CNN had to admit that he did a horrible job, and the Democratic Party are panicking. Those are your options.
Now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it. The outset of our nation, it was the character of George Washington, our first president, to define the presidency. He believed power was limited, not absolute. And that power always resides with the people. Always.
Exactly. And if Trump is elected president, that means the people have decided to make him president. So, see the
now,
logic
over 200 years later, today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it.
Here's the thing too. Like here's the thing, okay? That again, this power the president already had. The president already had this power. Okay, he already had immunity. It just wasn't written down. Now it is. It's all the difference. That's the only difference that has happened. Okay, it's just been written down at this point. That's all we got.
I know.
Oh, by the way, it's really funny. CNN turned off their chats during this, their comments during this. By the way, just thought it was funny.
I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years. But
really, then why are you going after your political opponent? Why are you going after your political opponent, Joe? Okay. And then because you went after your political opponent, should we be charging you, okay, with crimes? Should we?
Any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law.
Didn't correct. He's working within the law because the law states he has this power. Are prosecutors, while they're doing their job, are they above the law? Are they kings above the law in the court?
With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent.
Now, there's some controversy saying he just read that end of quote thing. and people are saying, "Oh, he was making a quote." I don't remember him hearing him say "quote unquote." I don't know, or I don't remember him saying, and I quote.
I dissent. May God bless you all, and may God help preserve our democracy. Thank you. May God protect our troops.
And then he runs away. See, here's the thing. All right, you have to choose. At this point, you're choosing Trump. Has been gone after politically, so politically that even the conviction that he's been made of, that has stuck to him, okay, that he's actually had a conviction of, even CNN, even even people that don't even agree with Trump says, hey, this is kind of murky shit. Okay, so you go after Trump, who everyone agrees is being gone after politically just because he's running for president and he's the political opponent of Joe Biden. Okay, we all agree that's what's going on. Or you pick the wet blanket that is the president now, who can't fucking debate at all, rambles incoherently, and is rumored to only be functional 6 hours a day. Okay, so we either have to entrust Trump or Biden and whoever is running Biden. Okay, unelected officials that are running Biden. That's who we have to pick between. Who you want to pick? Do you want to pick Trump? Because again, remember how it was under a Trump presidency? Wasn't that bad, was it? Okay, wasn't that bad? And Trump doesn't have the power to extend his term. Okay, only Congress can do that. Only Congress can do that. So he can't just stay in indefinitely, no matter what fears they keep, trying to bullshit you. Okay, can't disband Congress or anything like that, as I've been hearing or seeing. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. But so there we go. Let's see what Donald Trump has to say of this ruling.
Everybody agrees that if I'm not entitled to presidential immunity, which I should be, doing the affairs of state, I'm doing the affairs of the president of the United States and doing it well. We wouldn't have any of these problems if I were president. But if I'm not entitled to immunity as president, every other president would get that, then crooked Joe Biden would not be entitled to immunity. And when he left office, he would be, I assume, prosecuted for the horrible job he did in Afghanistan, killing soldiers, leaving Americans behind, leaving billions of dollars worth of military, brand new, beautiful military equipment that I bought in the hands of the Taliban, and basically surrendering. And there was no reason. We have to deal through strength. But all of the horrible things that he's done, allowing the attack on Israel, which would have never happened, the attack on Ukraine, which would have never happened, the possible attack on Taiwan, which possibly will happen, losing our energy independence. But maybe most of all, for purposes of immunity and going after Joe Biden, is allowing millions and millions of people to pour into our border, coming from jails and prisons, coming from mental institutions and insane asylums, and terrorists coming by the thousands. If I don't have immunity, then no other president would have immunity, and Joe Biden certainly wouldn't have had immunity. Would he, as an example, have immunity for all of the money he took from Russia, or for all of the money he took from China or Ukraine? Would he have immunity for the fact that he got rid of a prosecutor who was very unfriendly in Ukraine for $1 billion, and he's going to hold the money unless they get rid of him, and they got rid of him very quickly? Well, would he be prosecuted under that act, which is all on tape? Amazingly, he let it be on tape. Very illegal what he did. That's called quid pro quo. You remember that term? They used it on me, but I was totally innocent. And it was proven so. I was totally innocent. They impeached me, and I was totally innocent. But he said, you're not getting $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor who's unfriendly to perhaps Hunter. And you know what? That's a terrible, terrible thing he did. So if I don't have immunity, he doesn't have immunity. And by the way, the statute of limitations goes back 6 years and sometimes more than that. Thank you very much.
So there you go. That was Trump's just more talking points and stuff. So nothing of substance there, really. I mean, I think he's right. If Trump was president, all these wars probably wouldn't have happened. More than likely not, especially the one in Ukraine. It's mostly because Trump wasn't as buddy with NATO. All right, sorry, I'm just exhausted, guys. So, but there's no substance there I could really talk about. I mean, it was more of a political ad than Trump really responding. It's not a big deal. All right, so this is the blog, SCOTUS blog. Justice ruled Trump has some immunity from prosecution. In a historical decision, a divided Supreme Court on Monday ruled that it's not really that divided. All right, divided would be like a close narrowing. It was 3-6, with the 3 being who we knew were going to vote for against. Ruled that former presidents can never be prosecuted for actions relating to the core powers of their office, and that there is at least a presumption that they have immunity for their official acts more broadly. Yes, of course. This decision left open the possibility that the charges brought against former President Donald Trump by special counsel Jack Smith, alleging that Trump conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election, can still go forward, to the extent that the charges are based on his private conduct rather than his official acts. The case now returns to lower courts for them to determine whether the conduct at the center of the charges against Trump was official or unofficial, an inquiry that, even if it leads to the conclusion the charges can proceed, will almost certainly further delay any trial in the case, which had originally been scheduled to begin on March 4th, 2024, but is currently on hold. Kind of weird that they decided to schedule this right before election. Okay. For the first presidential debate, along with this other one that went on. It's interesting, isn't it? Weird. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts emphasized the president is not above the law, but Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in a dissent joined by Justice Elaine Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, cared that if a future president misuses official power for personal gain, the criminal law that the rest of us must abide will not provide a backstop and impeach him. The decision was the latest chapter in cases that began last year when Trump was indicted on 4 counts arising from Smith's investigation into the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The indictment contended that Trump created widespread mistrust through pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud, and then conspired to undermine a bedrock function of the United States federal government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. Trump asked Chutkan to throw out the charges against him, arguing that he is immune from prosecution because he was the president. Chutkan turned down the request in early December, explained the president does not confer a lifelong get out of jail free pass. Yes, but this was happening during his presidency, and this was, I would say, an official act. If the president believes that there was election fraud, there would, and he should be free to, it would be his official acts to speak that belief. Smith went to the Supreme Court later that month, asking the justice to weigh in on Trump's immunity without waiting for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit to rule on Trump's appeal, but the justices declined to do so, and it was 6 weeks, February 6, 2024, before the Court of Appeals issued its opinion rejecting Trump's claim to immunity. Trump then came to Supreme Court seeking a review of the D.C. Circuit's ruling. 2 weeks later, the justice agreed to take up his case. They scheduled the arguments for late April, putting the case on a faster track than it normally would have been, but a slower schedule than they had established for another case involving Trump. the challenge to Colorado's disqualification of the former president from its ballot for his role in the January 6, 2021 attacks. Yeah, that's because that one required a more urgent, okay? Because they had a primary coming up and they had to, Colorado had to be told whether they had to put Trump on the ballot or not. So that's why that was fast tracked. But still slower than, that's why that particular case was fast tracked. While this case actually not that important, because guess what? Even if Trump's found to be a convicted felon and everything, he can still run for president. He can still be president. I know, shocking, huh? That case was set for argument just over 1 month after the court announced a review of the case in January, and the court issued its decision that Trump just under 1 month after the oral arguments. It's kind of actually normal. In a ruling on the last day before the Supreme Court's summer session or recess, just over 2 months after the oral arguments, a majority of the court rejected the D.C. Circuit's reasoning. As an initial matter, Roberts explained in his 43-page ruling, presidents have absolute immunity for their official acts when those acts relate to the core powers granted to them by the Constitution. For example, the power to issue pardons, veto legislation, recognize ambassadors, and make appointments, probably more than that. But when it comes to the president's other official acts, Roberts continued, there is on one hand the concern that allowing criminal charges against a former president for his official acts would affect his decision-making while in office. It absolutely would. A president inclined to take one course of action based on the public interest may instead opt for another, apprehensive that criminal penalties may befall him upon departure from office, Roberts posed. On the other hand, Roberts noted the public had an interest in fair and effective enforcement of criminal laws. They're already not fair and effective. Weighing those two sets of interests, Roberts concluded a president should have immunity from criminal prosecution for his official acts, but not his unofficial acts, unless, at the very least, prosecution show that bringing such charges would not threaten the power and function of the executive power. Determining what acts are official and unofficial can be difficult, Roberts conceded. He emphasized the immunity the court recognized in his ruling takes a broad view of what constitutes a president's official responsibilities, covering actions so long as they are not manifestly or palpable beyond his authority. In conducting the official-unofficial inquiry, Roberts added, courts cannot consider the president's motives, nor can they designate an act as unofficial simply because it allegedly violates the law. Oh, that's good. Turning to some of the specific allegations against Trump, the majority ruled that Trump cannot be prosecuted for alleged efforts to leverage the Justice Department's power and authority to convict certain states to replace their legitimate electors with a wow, okay. That's interesting. So he can't be prosecuted over his, I didn't know this, but Trump cannot be prosecuted for his alleged efforts to leverage the Justice Department's powers and authorities to convict certain states to replace their legitimate electors with Trump's fraudulent slate of electors. Now, this doesn't say that Trump can't be prosecuted for sending fraudulent slate of electors. Okay, it's just saying that leveraging the justice power and authority to convince certain states to replace their legitimate electors, he can't be prosecuted for that. I wonder if that's going to affect the Georgia case at all. With regard to allegations that Trump attempted to pressure his former Vice President Mike Pence in his role as president of the Senate to reject the state electoral votes or send them back to the state legislators, the court deemed Trump's presumptively immune from prosecution on the theory that president and vice president are acting officially when they discuss their official responsibilities. On the other hand, Roberts observed the vice president role as president of the state is not an executive branch role. The court therefore left it to the district court to decide whether prosecuting Trump for this conduct would intrude on the power and operation of the executive branch. I'm sure this district court will find that is that they can prosecute on that, basically. And I bet that'll be back up to the Supreme Court before in the next session. Um, let's see. So the court did the same for the allegations in the indictment regarding Trump's interactions with private individuals and state officials, attempting to convince them to change electoral votes in his favor, as well as Trump's tweets leading up to January 6th attacks and his speech on the eclipse that day. Making this determination, Roberts wrote, will require close analysis of the indictment's extensive and interrelated allegations. Yeah, no, like this is obviously should be immune. He's interacting with states, with private individuals and states to convince them to change their electoral votes. The conversation is, hey, I think you're incorrect here. Let me give you my reasoning why. Okay. So this is clearly an official act, and the fact, Roberts, of course, pushed it out on it. Roberts rejected the government's contention that even if Trump has immunity from his official acts, prosecutors can still use evidence from those official acts to make their case to a jury. For example, to prove that Trump knew his election fraud claims were false, that proposal, Roberts stressed, threatened to eviscerate the immunity we have recognized, would permit a prosecutor to do indirectly what he cannot do directly, inviting the jury to examine acts for which a president is immune from prosecution, nonetheless prove his liability on any charge. Roberts pushed back against a dissent by Sotomayor and separate one by Justice Ketanji Brown, describing them as striking a chilling tone of doom that is wholly disproportionate to what the court actually does today. He portrayed the ruling as a relative narrow one that decides only that immunity extends to official discussions between the president and his attorney general, and then remanded lower courts for determining whether the other acts alleged in the indictment are entitled to immunity. Roberts also sought to downplay the political significance of the court ruling. He emphasized that although most people are focused on this case because of its potential impact on the charges against Trump, the Supreme Court cannot afford to fixate exclusively or even primarily on present exigencies. Our perspective, he wrote, must be more farsighted. Yeah, that was my argument when I was listening to oral arguments, was that the other justices aren't really focused on the Trump aspect. They're thinking ahead into the future presidency. Let's see. Justice Clarence Thomas agreed with the majority's ruling, but wrote a separate concurring opinion in which he questions constitutionality of Jack Smith's appointment as special counsel. He observed that no former president has faced criminal prosecution for his acts while in office in the more than 200 years since the founding of our country, despite numerous past presidents taking actions that could constitute crimes. If this unprecedented prosecution is to proceed, Thomas contended, it must be conducted by someone duly authorized to do so by the American people. The court should thus answer these essential questions concerning the special counsel's appointment. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon, who is overseeing the case brought by Smith in Florida, alleged that Trump illegally kept classified documents after leaving office, heard oral arguments on that question last month. In her separate concurrence, Justice Amy Coney Barrett agreed with the majority that the Constitution prohibits Congress from minimizing a president's exercise of his core constitutional power and closely related conduct, but she would have the courts approach the question of immunity for other official acts differently, by focusing first on whether the criminal law under which a former president is charged applies to his official acts, and if so, whether prosecuting the former president would interfere with his constitutional authority. Analyzing the principle to the fact of this case, she suggested at least some of the conduct that serves on as the basis of Trump charges against Trump, such as his request that the Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives hold a special session about election fraud claims would not be immune. The president, she concluded, has no authority over state legislators or their leadership, so it's hard to see how prosecuting for crimes committed when dealing with the Arizona House Speaker would constitutionally intrude on executive power. No, I disagree with you there. That should definitely be immune. Here's why. Okay, it's the president's job to ensure we have a free election, and if he has the suspicion that the election is fraudulent, he should be absolutely free to request that the Speaker of the House of Representatives hold a special session about election fraud claims. Okay, there's nothing criminal about saying, "Hey, could you hold a special session about my claims on election fraud in your state?" Should actually absolutely be able to allow. Why shouldn't he be able to do that? I don't get that at all. I really don't. I don't get how asking, like, it would be one thing if he was threatening, "Hey, you must give, do a special circumstance, or before I leave office, I'm going to, I don't know, send a drone strike to destroy you," or some shit like that. That wouldn't be immune. But him asking, saying, "Hey, could you, hold a special session," and not really doing anything after they say no, that's definitely different. Barrett also disagreed with her colleagues in the majority on whether prosecutors can use evidence of presidential's official acts. The Constitution, she wrote, does not require blinding juries to the circumstances surrounding conduct for which presidents can be held liable. She acknowledged a majority concerns that such evidence could influence the jury, but insists the federal evidentiary rules and trial courts can address those concerns on a case-by-case basis, or we can just not do it at all. And that's a lot easier. In her dissent, which, like Jackson's, notably did not use the traditional respectfully, Sotomayor contended that Monday's ruling reshaped the institution of the presidency. No, it didn't, which is described as presumptive or absolute. She wrote, under the majority's rule, a president use of any official power for any purpose, even the most corrupt, is immune from prosecution. That is just as bad as it sounds, and it's baseless. No, it's not. With a fear of our democracy, she concluded, I dissented. Yeah, no, because that's been the law of the land forever. Again, we have impeachment. President can be removed, and I would say a natural entailment from that, if he's impeached and removed from office, he is stripped from his immunity and therefore can be prosecuted. Nothing in the text of the Constitution or the history of the United States supported the kind of immunity that the majority found in its opinion, Sotomayor maintained. Yeah, but then you listen to Sotomayor ask questions, and you realize she's just a dumb. So why should I give a shit? She noted the draftees of the Constitution did not carve out a narrow immunity for members of Congress, and some state constitutions at the time did explicitly create criminal immunity for governors, but the draftees did not include any such provisions for the president. They kind of did when they say the only way you can remove a president is by impeaching him. That was how they did it. They didn't say it directly, but they're like, yeah, the only way you can remove a sitting president is if you impeach him and remove him from office. Okay. That was basically it. And at the time, it was high crimes and misdemeanors. The only way you can remove a sitting president was if he commits high crimes and misdemeanors, warranting an impeachment and removal from office. That's the only way to remove a sitting president. There you go. Like, it's right there. It's right there. Okay, cool. I'm almost done with this. Indeed, Sotomayor added, the drafters of the Constitution suggest the president could face criminal prosecution by indicating in the provision addressing impeachment that a president can be subject to prosecution even after impeachment. Yes, after impeachment. He needs to be impeached, removed from office. That strips him of his immunity, and then he can be prosecuted. Boom! There you go. You agree with me, Sotomayor. Thank you. Sotomayor contended that the majority decision might sweetly more broadly than her colleagues acknowledged. First, she argues that the line that Roberts drew between official and unofficial conduct narrows the conduct considering unofficial almost to a nullity, It says that whenever the president acts in a way that's not manifest or palpable beyond his authority, he is taking an official action. The majority takes an expansive view of core powers of the president. She continues that will effectively insulate all sort of non-core conduct from criminal prosecution. In every use of official power, she concluded, the president is now a king above the law. I don't remember a king being able to be impeached. That's the thing. In her own separate dissent, she only gets a small section. That's hilarious. Jackson complains that Monday's ruling has unilaterally altered the balance of power between the three branches of government. No, it's not. Giving more power to courts and executive branch at Congress' expense, and it undermines the constraint of law as a deterrent for future presidents who might otherwise abuse their power. She characterized the particular consequences of the ruling as a 5-alarm fire that threatens to consume democratic self-governance and normal operation of our government. Except our government has normally operated like this. It was not written down, but it's been basically like this for 200 years. It's only because of Biden that we're even having this discussion. So if you really have a problem with this discussion, you should blame Biden for criminally going after his political opponent, because that's the only reason he did it. All these cases came down a year ago. Okay? A year ago. Right when the election cycle was starting up again. That's when these indictments came. It didn't come like a year or two after, January 6th or anything like that. It didn't come then. It came when Trump says he was going to run, or it looked like Trump was going to run. There was, at least, that Trump was more than likely not going to run. More than likely not going to, or going to run. It was more likely was going to run. So you can blame Biden. It's all Biden's fault. Literally. It's all Biden's fault, bitches. All of it. So, all right. Let's go check out some lefties who are going insane about this. Okay. So, of course, immunity comes, and they think that the law is just thrown out. Okay, president has immunity, means there's no such thing as laws anymore, because they don't understand the actual anything going on.
So the Supreme Court ruled that a president has complete immunity for any act they do in their official capacity as president. And Joe Biden is still president. And the Supreme Court is counting on Joe Biden to continue to be the good man that he is and not abuse what they have just given him.
Do you think the Supreme Court didn't make this decision and not think about, Biden could totally take this and switch it up on us and do whatever the fuck we want? Like, seriously? Seriously? Like, seriously? Like, you really think they're not smart enough to be like, how has this worked? Is it possible that Biden could switch up and use our words against us? They didn't think that through at all. Come on.
But personally, I think Joe Biden should go full Monty on this. I mean, in his official capacity as president, maybe he could just disband the Supreme Court or unalive.
See, she's like, they could just ban the Supreme Court. Okay. Where in the Constitution does it say you can disband a branch of government? Like, see, this is how retarded they are. Okay, they're so dumb. They got the TDS. Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome. They have it so bad that they're making illogical arguments. Okay, where in the Constitution does it say that a president has the power to disband the Supreme Courts? Doesn't. And then she's going to do the whole unalive Trump. Okay, now look. Biden could do that. He could absolutely, send SEAL Team 6 and assassinate Trump, and he would be immune. But first, let's suspend our reality, okay? That this would actually happen, okay? It would mean that everyone from the top down would just go and, finish off Trump with no evidence at all, just because the president says so. It's not how it works, all right? You're required to have some evidence. You're required to, show that there's some existential threat before the military at all goes and unalive someone, all right? It's how it works. Then they'll have to carry it out, all right? Then they'll carry it out. What if Biden says go and unalive him because he's my political opponent? They're just gonna say no. Like these people, like they're so dumb, and it hurts my brain how dumb they are. Because guess what? The president could do that, and if it was followed through, he would be immune from that order. Absolutely. But again, you would have to believe that the people doing the act would actually think that this was a lawful order for one. Okay. Because guess what? Even if the president gives you an order, if it's if it's unlawful, you can and killing, because like they seem to not understand that just because you have immunity doesn't mean there's no longer a law. It just means you can't be prosecuted for that law by the government. That's all that fucking means. Okay, means you can't be prosecuted. Doesn't mean the law disappears. So if I'm sending you to kill my political opponent just because they're my political opponent, that's unlawful, and that can be ignored. Now, let's say this happens, and Trump is unalived on Biden's orders. You know what's going to happen? That's going to be such an egregious act. Even the Democrats, okay, not the deranged ones, but even the more reasonable Democrats are going to assist and impeach the president, because a president who goes and assassinates, unalives, whatever, their political opponent is very dangerous to the country. So that would be cause for an impeachment. Biden would be impeached. He would be removed from office. Then the natural entailment would be he could be prosecuted. Okay. And that'd be over. Like this is how dumb they are. They don't understand it. They just think immunity means the Trump president can do whatever he wants. It's not actually true. It just means he won't be prosecuted. If he does something extremely egregious, then guess what? He's going to be impeached. So you'd have to suspend the reality on two fronts. One, you'd have to think that the troops carrying out this order would go and do it, and two, you would have to think that this such an egregious act of unaliving your political opponent would not be, would not like do anything to your own supporters in Congress, that they wouldn't impeach you. Like, doesn't make any sense. Also, it'd be wildly unpopular, even among Democrats. And that, that's what's kind of like so fucking dumb.
Donald Trump. I mean, he'd have complete immunity. He's president, right? That would certainly solve a lot of our problems.
Also, here's the thing. He could do that. He could unalive President Trump, and we'd be okay with that as long as he has evidence of, it being true that Trump was a threat to democracy. He had plans to, take out, as soon as he was in office, he had plans written down. We found him of using the military and whatever. Like, you'd have to have some evidence for it to actually anyone to be okay with it.
So the Supreme.
So that's how stupid people are. So since this immunity ruling has passed, Trump is obviously sending a letter on Monday to challenge his conviction in the hush money case. And they're going to take that. That's going to delay sentencing. Let's see. So Manhattan's DA office did not file its sentencing submission Monday, as expected. DA office declined to comment. So there we go. So that's not surprising. So the second that this ruling comes down, Trump filed an appeal basically to his conviction. It's not surprising at all. All right. So then this is
Lisa,
MSNBC. They're discussing this move basically.
you have a little bit of news. Please give it to us. The DA's office is saying, with respect to former President Trump's motion to apply the immunity ruling of yesterday to that conviction in New York, DA's office is saying they don't oppose him taking some time to file a motion which would necessarily adjourn the sentencing. We don't have a ruling yet from Judge Merchan as to whether he's going to put off that July 11th sentencing. But right now we have notice from the DA's office that they're okay with pushing that off and having briefing on President Trump's motion.
Yeah. So here it is. So you know, and this is going to show you how corrupt Merchant is. The DA isn't opposing this at all. Okay. So the Trump want it, and the DA effectively wants it as well. So if Merchant goes on with the sentencing, that really is going to prove how corrupt he is. So we will see what's going to happen. I don't think we, you know, who knows?
To vacate the verdict on the basis of that immunity ruling.
Why would they, Catherine? Why would they consent? Because they know that this is an issue that we don't want an appellate issue. That's what the prosecution is thinking. If Merchan said, I'm just not dealing with it, that wouldn't happen. So they want to respond. They want to put it in writing. And I told Misty off air that sentences, at least in New York and state court, are often adjourned. That when there's a date set, it's not always certain, because issues like this, not involving a former president, but issues come up and it's adjourned.
We just got the letter from Donald Trump's team to Juan Merchan. This was sent by, I think, Todd Blanche. Yes, Todd Blanche is the signee. So, Vaughn, tell me about the Trump team and their strategy with using this immunity decision.
Right. The argument that they're making, Donald Trump's attorneys, are the fact that not necessarily that Donald Trump was immune from the New York charges that he was found guilty of, but some of the underlying evidence, particularly the tweets and the public statements that were used and brought into as evidence by the district attorney's office to help convince the jury that he was in fact guilty. Because what we have from the Supreme Court's decision was a clear statement, quote, "For these reasons, most of a president's public communications are likely to fall comfortably within the outer perimeter of his official responsibilities." So Donald Trump's team is contesting that if in fact the DA's office was not able to bring some of that testimony in, it is not sure that the jury would have found him guilty. And so this is where we now are looking at July 11th was supposed to be the sentencing. That is next Thursday. We now expect that sentencing to be pushed off based off of the request of the Donald Trump's defense team, but now also the DA's office saying they're fine with it, but give us 2 weeks to respond to these motions that they're putting forward.
So there we go. So DA's not fighting it. And so it would be reasonable to say that, hey, let's just do that. Let's push this off. We'll do it another day. Blah 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 blah. We'll see. We'll see what Judge Merchan does. It will prove to how corrupt he is if he decides to continue sentencing, regardless of the motion that was been set forth, even though the DA is not fighting back against it. We'll see. All right. And then last but not least, I'm not really going to go into the article, but AOC is threatening to throw articles impeachment on, file articles of impeachment on the Supreme Court due to this ruling. It's not going to end up going far. Like, she has it's a political stunt. These impeachments are a political stunt. That's all it is. So it's not a big deal. I wouldn't be concerned about it. They always say, I'm going to file impeachment. They never actually impeach anyone and get them out removed, at least. It's just clearly a political stunt. Simple as that. Oh, you know what? Before I get into it, I'm going to go and all right. I like this question. I have a question. I'm not particularly political, but I do own a lot of red hats I haven't been able to wear for 7 years. What do you think the statute of limitations is on these red hats? Well, I would say the statute of limitations are all done. Sorry, that just made me laugh. You know, for any normal human being, those statute of limitations would have ran out 7 years ago. Well, let's be 6 years ago. Okay, that that's when the statute of limitation ran out. But you got to remember, these are lefties. These are Democratic lefties. They're not normal people. So I guess the statute of limitation is indefinitely. Okay, until Donald Trump is forgotten by the American people or by these Democrats. That's when the statute of limitations happen. That's when it's limited, and you will no longer be prosecuted by crazy leftists for wearing a red hat. Because are fucking lefties in particular are insane. Like they're calling for Biden after this immunity to bomb the Supreme Court, unalive Trump, all this stuff. So I say wear your red hat if you want to, but make sure that you are ensuring that you are protecting yourself with all means that you are at your disposal. Thanks for the question. That made me laugh. Fucking idiots. You're gonna see like some of the I'm gonna show you some of my Twitter feed. So I'm gonna have a conversation with some of these idiots over this immunity stuff. And it's just not gonna make any sense because they don't make any fucking sense. All right, so I responded to this. Basically, a president could be the next Sizu. I have no idea who that is. Or the next Hitler, and he/she couldn't be held accountable for official acts. I responded very simply and very, with some actual understanding of civics is, yes, he can. It's called impeachment. That is being held accountable. If you impeach him, be held accountable. This dumbass, who I've been arguing back and forth a bunch, is disband Congress as an official act by impeachment. I ask him a very simple question. Can't do that. Tell me where in the Constitution that says the president can disband the legislative branch. Sorry. Tell me in the Constitution where POTUS is immune from prosecution as long as it is an official act. The impeachment clause. Impeachment clause only works if a crime was believed to have happened. How can you commit a crime if you're immune? I responded with a very, a true statement. Dude, you're dumb. All your leftists are dumb. You have so much TDS that it is ridiculous. You can commit a crime and it still be a crime, but not be prosecuted for it due to having immunity. Cops are allowed to hold you hostage and be wrong and not be prosecuted due to qualified immunity. It's true. Try that as a normal citizen. So Biden or Trump could commit a crime, it be an official act, and be immune from prosecution while president or afterwards, but still be impeached and removed from office. And I believe a natural entailment from that is that his immunity would be stripped as well. We don't have the answer yet because, one, that's not what was asked in regards to the immunity in front of SCOTUS, and two, we haven't had a president impeached and removed from office. I'm sure if that at all ever happens, that'll be brought before the Supreme Court, and the courts will say yes. If a president is impeached and removed from office, that strips him of his immunity. He does not respond to this because he's dumb. So this person here says presidential immunity is constitutional. Where? United States of America. Is there a check and balance if the president is immune from laws set by the legislative branch? We've been through this already. LOL. So you're going to answer the question, or I already have. So, but this is how dumb they are. Is they just think that the president can just disband Congress and that's an official act. It's not an official act. It's never been an official act. These people are retarded. I have more. I have to find them. Okay, this is someone else who responded to my very obvious logical thought process. If his party controls the Senate, good luck on that happening, unless he disbands the Senate on national security grounds. What national security grounds can he disband the legislative branch? What the fuck? Oh, legislative branch. Where in the Constitution does that say? Now, if he becomes a Hitler and the Senate doesn't do anything, what can happen that can change that? The voters can vote to remove them from office in the next election. You also have to suspend reality and believe that a president could become a Hitler and members of his party would still support him. Well, all he needs to do is claim all Democrats are leftist agitators infiltrating the U.S. Again, because he doesn't answer my first question, which is where can the president disband the legislative branch? Again, where in the Constitution would that mean he could disband Congress? Also, he could claim that, but again, doesn't mean he could disband Congress. There is also nothing stopping a president from claiming, because he's sworn to an oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, from invoking the Insurrection Act on protesters. And with his party in Congress, we all know impeachment is a political tool. Again, I do this a lot. I kept asking him the same question over and over and over again. Again, where in the Constitution says that he can disband Congress, and we are seeing how this insurrection talking about he's going with the public here and now is highly polarized. So I don't see just a claim would get anyone far, even if it was Trump. And even if he'd remove those insurrectionists, the state would hold special elections, put new people in those seats, and then he'd get impeached. Issue is, again, impeachment is itself a political tool. And we all know no party would ever vote to convict their candidate in today's age of hyperpolarization. I ask again, where in the Constitution does it say a president can disband Congress? You keep dodging this question, or that question. Impeachment has been used as a political tool. That's because most impeachments of Trump have been purely political. There was no actual basis for it. But you think if a president committed such an egregious act that most, if not all, the country was calling for an impeachment, the president's party would not impeach him? That's how much you had to suspend reality, that a president could commit such an egregious act and the party still wouldn't disband him. The GOP didn't for January 6th. Keep dodging the question. Where in the Constitution does it say the president can disband Congress? And January 6th wasn't an insurrection. And again, most people don't view it as one. At best, it's 50-50, and that's being generous. Okay, I'll concede that it was not an insurrection, but it was by definition a coup attempt. It's not even that. Then what do you call a president inciting a mob to overturn election results? Where did he incite a mob? He said on Twitter, be peaceful. Let's see, urging his supporters, we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. The committee found evidence Trump never wrote the lines about peacefully, but rather his speechwriter did. So fight like hell is an incitement? Did he say storm the Capitol, fight like hell? Did he say protest, fight like hell to make your voice heard? I think that part was closer to what he actually said. And even if that's true, at the time and is this the same committee that deleted the footage of January 6th? And even if that's true, at the time, in the moment, people viewed coming from Trump, took it as Trump words. I didn't English that well. Okay, and then here's another part. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do anything, what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify correct set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones, which these were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth. How is that incitement, I ask? Because this crowd literally set up a gala and chanted, "Hang Mike Pence," with the intent to lynch the then vice president. So that doesn't make it incitement. As you can see, you did not have a comeback for that because, again, these people are dumb and insane. They tried to make up a bunch of shit that doesn't make any sense, okay? Nothing that guy said had any bearing in reality. It was, I don't like the president. He makes me feel yucky. All that did. All right. So that's the end of it. I'm tired. My voice hurts. I'm gonna go back to bed. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys liked my explanation of the various events that we had to deal with this immunity. What do you think of Trump's immunity? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? Comment below. Tell me what you think. Are you some people that have to, like, you can disagree with the decision, that's fine, but actually have some logic behind it, not some hypothetical suspending of reality. Because that's all I've gotten so far is some suspending of reality, or leftists claiming what, trying to claim what we did do, and starting to threaten bombing government officials now, or wanting bombing of government officials, which is not surprising as a typical leftist. If you don't like something, burn it down. So, all right. So I hope you all have a good day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay. Hopefully this will be an enjoyable video for everyone. But again, comment below. What do you think of the presidential immunity? Do you think, do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? Do you think it's always been a thing and we never actually had to put it down on paper until now? Whose fault is it? Biden's, Trump's? Just, what do you think? I hope you have a good day. Come check me out tomorrow. I don't know what I'll talk about. I know yesterday I said I would be doing a video on Andrew Wilson and Based Oracle, that they had a debate. Obviously, I wanted to do this because this was a little more, important, I would think. I would say. Also, it's, kind of more of a day-to-day problem type situation. So I'm going to save that for Thursday. And the reason for that is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go to the gym. And then I work at like, I gotta be at work at like 1:45 and 2:30ish, depending on the day. And so Tuesdays and Thursdays are my break days, and I can do longer streams. While on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm kind of limited to roughly an hour-ish stream. And I know this Andrew Wilson and Based Oracle debate's going to take more than an hour. So Thursday, I'll probably do that unless some big news drops between now and then. That's my plan. If it does, maybe I'll just end up doing it on Sunday. I don't know. I haven't decided. Be on the lookout for that. Come check out my my next show. I hope you all have a good day again. And peace. And see you later.